여러분 안녕하십니까? 저는 주한 호주 대사관 무역투자 대표부 데인 리치먼 잠사관입니다. 한국어 등록 정치를 희망하시면 EPS 채널 5 더는 6번 이용 주시기 바랍니다. So now I'll speak English. Hello everyone, my name is Dane Richmond. I'm the Trade and Investment Commissioner based here in Seoul, South Korea. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to our Australia Day Country Seminar. I'd like to begin by thanking the organisers of H2 Meet 2024, in particular for their gracious gesture shown to Australia by designating us as the country of honour this year. I'd like to thank my team for organising this event, in particular Mr. Cha Bong-sok, who many of you will now know for his tireless work in organising the Team Australia presence here at H2 Meet. Bong-sok, you have truly earned a vacation. I'd also like to thank our friends and colleagues from the state and territory governments represented here today. It's wonderful to see Team Australia on display here. It's very moving for me. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Mr. Jeff Robinson, Australian Ambassador to the Republic of Korea. Many of you in this room have experienced firsthand the passion and drive His Excellency has for Australia and Korea's energy transformation. Today we will hear from a range of Australian companies and project proponents. I encourage you to network and connect with us over the next few days. And as I'm often saying, the follow-up is the most important, so please don't hesitate to connect with my team and I to help facilitate follow-up meetings. Speaking of follow-up, our friends from South Australia will be hosting a networking event next door at room 306 as soon as our session concludes here at 5 p.m. You do not want to miss this event, as South Australian wine is world famous. With that, I'd like to invite His Excellency, the Ambassador Jeff Robinson, to the stage to deliver some opening remarks.
Thank you, Dane, and I think you've already experienced Dane's passion for this relationship too. Look, I can't say how pleased I am to be here with you this afternoon at this Australia Country Day seminar. I'm really honoured and really happy that Australia is a featured country here. It is very timely and it's very important. Since arriving here as ambassador in January, a great deal of my time has been focused on the energy transition that both Australia and Korea are going through. This isn't my first experience of Korea. I first came here 40 years ago, and I've seen both the Australia-Korea partnership, but also Korea's economy and society develop to be the success it is today. And that is due in large part to the cooperation that both of our countries have forged over recent decades. What has always struck me, though, is the extraordinary complementarity that has driven our economic engagement over that period, and that continues to drive our cooperation into the future. Australia, of course, is very well blessed with energy and resources, and that has been hugely valuable, in fact critical to Korea's economic development. But we stand at the cusp of the need for both of our economies to move to a lower carbon future. You all know that. That's why you are here. But again, Australia is very well placed with our abundant renewable energy and resources, the critical minerals that will be really important in these new industries. And again, we perfectly complement each other, including because as we go forward and we develop this new industry in Australia, we cannot do it without Korean technology, we cannot do it without Korean investment, and we cannot do it without your energy requirements. I mean, frankly, it's to your benefit. Your energy security is your economic security, is your national security. But for Australia too, our future prosperity depends hugely, critically, on our international partners, no less than in this new industry. Now, the Australian government's Future Made in Australia plan, which was announced as part of the last budget, promised to invest nearly $23 billion over the next decade, and it's about transforming Australia into a renewable energy superpower. It recognises, however, the crucial role of the private sector and our foreign partners. Your success in taking this partnership forward is all of our success. Your success makes my job here so much easier. We are working together for the same outcome, to maximise the economic and industrial benefits of the transition that we are both embarking on together in partnership. Now, some of the things that are included in this FMIA, or Future Made in Australia package, is a single front door for investors, for foreign investors, to make it simpler for them working on the transformation projects, to make it so much easier for you to kind of engage with the various parts of the Australian government. Many government ministries in Australia are involved in this. We have a federal system with state and federal governments. This is intended to make it as simple and as straightforward as we possibly can. Does it mean it will be easy? No, it will not. We have challenges ahead. The regulatory and framework that we go through is still evolving. We will deal with each of these steps step by step. But the Australian government recognises the crucial importance of our foreign partners. So it will also seek to streamline and make as simple as possible the processes for low emission technologies and projects. So I'm going to do something very unusual and be brief, although I've probably failed already. I really commend all of you for your hard work on all the projects that I'm aware of. I know getting them off the ground is challenging. It's never easy or straightforward. But rest assured that my team at the Embassy, including Austrade, and me personally, we are committed to helping you in any way we feasibly can. So please take that as a promise. For any of you, if you need to reach out to the Embassy team, the door is open. On that, I wish you all the success. Take the opportunity of this to make new friends, new partners, because through that we can move forward together. Thank you very much.
대사님 감사합니다. Thank you, Ambassador. I'd now like to play a short video address from Catherine Zerger, Branch Head, Hydrogen Strategy from the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water.
Thank you for the invitation to provide an update on the Australian Government's hydrogen policies. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person with you today. My name is Catherine Zerger and I head up the Hydrogen Strategy Branch in the Australian Government Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm speaking to you today, which here in Canberra, Australia, is the Ngunnawal people. I'd also like to acknowledge traditional owners throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Last week, Minister for Climate Change and Energy, the Honourable Chris Bowen, released Australia's updated National Hydrogen Strategy, which provides the framework for Australia to become a global hydrogen leader. The strategy focuses on accelerating clean hydrogen industry growth. This will be achieved through increasing global cost competitiveness by supporting industry development at scale. The new strategy recognises opportunities for hydrogen as both an energy carrier and as an input for the production of low emissions products such as green metals or low carbon liquid fuels. The strategy also acknowledges the role that hydrogen will need to play in Australia to meet our domestic net zero target by 2050. I'll now take the opportunity to provide an overview of Australia's National Hydrogen Strategy. The 2024 strategy establishes a vision for a clean, innovative, safe and competitive hydrogen industry that benefits Australia's communities and economy, enables our net zero transition and positions us as a major global leader. It identifies 4 objectives supported by 34 actions, as well as targets, collaboration across governments, and associated enablers that will underpin their delivery. The updated strategy recognises that hydrogen will play an important complementary role to electrification by opening net zero pathways for hard-to-abate industries. It outlines how Australia can take advantage of the global net zero transition through hydrogen underpinning new domestic manufacturing, like green metals and chemicals, and energy exports to our international partners. Success against this objective will see Australia produce sufficient volumes of hydrogen at a price that will attract demand from domestic and international buyers. To support this objective, the updated strategy sets a long-term hydrogen production target of 15 million tonnes by 2050, supported by 5 yearly milestones. This will help inform wider infrastructure planning and investments by Australia's governments and will bolster investor confidence by sending a clear signal to trading partners about the future marketplace in Australia for hydrogen and hydrogen-based fuels. Other actions targeted at hubs and infrastructure, workforce, supply chains and innovation will also reduce project costs and enable the industry to grow. And importantly, reducing the cost of hydrogen as a major input to production through the Hydrogen Production Tax Incentive and expanded Hydrogen Head Start program. A key aspect of the updated strategy is a long-term hydrogen production target of 15 million tonnes by 2050, with a stretch potential of 30 million tonnes, supported by 5 yearly milestones. Setting 5 yearly production milestones out to 2050 will provide the trajectory we will need to realise our goal to be a global hydrogen leader, with hydrogen providing both a critical component to our domestic decarbonisation strategy and enabling new economic opportunities to emerge. To accelerate the development of Australia's hydrogen industry, the government is introducing the Hydrogen Production Tax Incentive, which will offer a time-limited and demand-driven refundable tax offset of $2 per kilo to eligible hydrogen producers. The HPTI will be delivered to eligible producers of renewable hydrogen between 2027-28 and 2039-40 for a maximum period of 10 years. Key parameters of the HPTI are being finalised following consultation with industry and other stakeholders. The final design is planned to be announced well in advance of the incentive coming into operation from 2027-28. In addition, up to $4 billion has been committed to the Hydrogen Head Start program to provide revenue support for large-scale renewable hydrogen. The Hydrogen Head Start program has been designed to, amongst other things, accelerate the technical and commercial viability of renewable hydrogen production in Australia by supporting innovative first-mover projects. These measures will help drive deployment, build experience in the Australian hydrogen and finance sectors with large-scale projects, and help bridge the commercial gap. Moving on to demand. Hydrogen has many potential applications, but the strategy focuses on the use cases that are currently most prospective. These demand sectors are more likely to support the hydrogen sector to scale up, contribute to domestic decarbonisation, and contribute to our economy through large-scale export. Through the strategy, the government will prioritise its policy support towards the most prospective sectors for hydrogen use. The strategy identifies that hydrogen can provide a foundation for new value-added green export manufacturing industries, with the most prospective being ammonia, iron and alumina. Domestic users will also benefit from the growth of Australian large-scale export-focused hydrogen production, which will reduce costs and build supply chains. This will enable hydrogen to play an important role in Australia's decarbonisation, with the most prospective domestic use sectors being heavy road freight, long-haul transport, both for aviation and shipping, and power. And let me now walk through the objective of community benefit. Social licence is a core pillar of the new hydrogen strategy and reflects the importance of community support if the hydrogen sector is to emerge and scale up. The strategy is focused on creating an industry that is well regarded due to its track record for safety and responsible conduct, and benefits local communities and the wider population. Actions include encouraging an industry-led code of conduct to demonstrate it is serious about responsible and ethical conduct, ensuring appropriate regulation is in place and being enforced to build trust on hydrogen safety, considering hydrogen water demand in the context of broader water policies, and encouraging opportunities and shared benefit for First Nations people. Our fourth objective is trade, investment and partnerships. Key trading partners, including the Republic of Korea, have announced ambitious hydrogen use or import targets for 2030. Australia is well placed to meet a significant share of this demand. The strategy sets an export target of 0.2 million tonnes by 2030, with a stretch potential of 1.2 million tonnes per year. This will signal our intention for Australia's hydrogen export industry to materially contribute to our partners' import and use targets. To help Australia produce and export hydrogen and other clean products at scale, the government is establishing a Guarantee of Origin scheme, or GO, to provide future consumers with transparency around clean hydrogen production. The GO will track and verify emissions associated with hydrogen and low emissions products and provide an enduring mechanism called the Renewable Energy Guarantee of Origin to certify renewable electricity. The government has introduced legislation into Parliament for the Guarantee of Origin. Australia also recognises that the net zero transition will require a collective global effort. Australia has established a number of climate and clean energy partnerships to build hydrogen supply chain linkages, foster investment and shape global markets. We also recognise the importance of participation in multilateral forums to accelerate the pace and scale of clean energy technology innovation and deployment globally. These international partnerships create export opportunities and economic benefits for Australia and act as an enabler to unlock private capital investment. Finally, it is important to acknowledge that this is a national hydrogen strategy and it has the support of our state and territory governments. Delivering the National Hydrogen Strategy relies on complementary and consistent actions from the states and territories. Collaboration to streamline regulatory and planning approval frameworks will provide certainty to business and confidence to communities. The hydrogen industry, like all other industries, has a responsibility to protect Australia's unique environment and significant places. The Australian Government will continue to work across government agencies to deliver a simplified front door for major investors, providing facilitation services to navigate the various regulatory frameworks and streamline approvals processes. We want to work with investors to support investment proposals that achieve our ambitions set out in the National Hydrogen Strategy and our Future Made in Australia vision. We encourage investors and project proponents to engage with our department early and receive guidance on navigating our national environmental approval process. I hope that provided a useful, albeit brief, overview of our National Hydrogen Strategy. Thank you again for inviting me to speak today, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite to the stage my friend and colleague, Ms. Eugene Kim, Director, Investment, New South Wales, Seoul.
Thanks, Dane. 뉴사우스웨일즈 주정부 무역투자진흥관 김유진입니다. 마이크가 왜 이렇게 저희 뉴사우스웨일즈 주에서는 세 개 조직이 발표를 할 텐데요. 이제 첫 번째로는 윈드 SCS에서 발표를 하고 그 다음에 포울 오브 뉴캐슬의 동영상을 시청을 하신 후에 뉴사우스웨일즈주의 기후 변화 환경 에너지부, 굉장히 긴 이름이죠. 이 부를 대신해서 제가 발표를 마지막으로 하겠습니다. 첫 번째 발표자인 토니 스토크를 모시겠습니다. 지금 토니 노스케님, 네, 발표를 부탁드립니다. 주십시오. 네.
안녕하세요. Good afternoon. It's a dual act today. So, good afternoon. My name is Tran Su. I'm one of the directors at WIN SES. I'd like to first acknowledge His Excellency Ambassador Jeff Robinson, representing Australia, Ms. Eugene Kim, representing Invest New South Wales, and thank you for the invitation. I had to start off with, first of all, how did we end up here as an exhibitor at the H2 Meet? I was very lucky to be here last year as a visitor. And prior to that, being invited by the Australian Federal Minister for Trade, Don Farrell. It was through that we learned there is so much opportunities as partnerships here in Korea. And I've been able to, over the past year, persuade my colleagues to divert their attention away from European colleagues to come and explore with some Korean counterparts. So without more to do, my colleagues Luke Mateus, Tony Noski, and our new local Korean representative, Gino, is in the room, so I'd like to acknowledge them as well. So thank you very much.
I've just been told there's a clicker over here. I'll see if I can work that out on the way. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, we are in the middle of some extremely exciting times. My name is Luke Matthias. Very fortunate to be a part of this this business, WIN SES, with Tony Noski and Tran Su. We have got, in the wind space, onshore and offshore, 30 gigawatts plus of planned projects coming into our great country. We have got a huge footprint geographically, but in terms of people power and supply chain, we don't have the depth that we are going to need to be delivering this sort of game-changing type volume of projects. I look at our why of our business. We are a PM business. We sit with our supplier clients. We sit with our project owners and help them deliver certain portions of the supply chain. What's been happening in the Australian renewable supply chain, it's been a very autocratic direction of delivery, and that has had its difficulty with the actual supply chain. The real Australian businesses who are doing these pieces, who are shipping, who've got port services, who are doing the erection, wiring, commissioning of the wind turbines. There isn't the depth of those companies for them to be squeezed. That is the why behind our business, because we are not here to autocratically tell them how to deliver a project and then squeeze their margins out of them. That doesn't create a long-term gain in this renewables revolution. We are here to work as a team. We have roped around some of the key Australian suppliers, stakeholders within supply chain, and created an environment where team is everything, where, we'll see if this works now. Absolutely not. I don't even know if I'm pressing the right piece. If someone can help me with the next slide, please. Thank you. Collaboration is the absolute key to what we do. We have brought together global suppliers in shipping, in port upgrades and port services, in heavy haulage transport, unique transport, onshore, on land transport. We have brought together a team that has delivered some of the largest renewable projects in Australia, working together, and we're making them better because we're giving them visibility of the whole supply chain. They're not just being told the little piece that they need to be completing at certain times. We are giving them full visibility, full access over the whole supply chain, so that if the ships are late, guess what? The port services can prepare themselves. Everyone down the track of supply chain can prepare themselves and make better use of their time. Removing friction from the handover pieces in our supply chains is going to be critical if we can deliver these projects and deliver them on budget for a global network of project owners. If we can keep this Australian community open for investment by delivering projects on time and at budget, Anything we can do to smooth out that supply chain will be absolutely required. I had a mentor, and he became a business partner. And a lot of our work is been done over the past 40 or 50 years of Tony Noski's experience in supply chain and smoothing out supply chain, optimizing supply chain all over the world. It's been fantastic. He keeps threatening to retire, but we keep bringing him out. And today, I'm going to be introducing Tony up for a couple of the pieces. With a history like this, it's very difficult to fit it into 10 minutes. So it's a great pleasure to introduce Tony up to the lectern. Cheers, Tony.
Thanks, Luke. My apologies for turning up today without a suit on and a tie, but I grew up in a transport business, and I learnt very early on that if we want to manage people in transport, you need to dress the same as they do. So don't wear a suit and don't wear a tie. Apologies once again. My history is 50 years in transport and logistics. Early stage, my father used to have me working when I was 12 and 13 years old, and I learned a lot out of that. Out of that whole process, I was awarded a scholarship to go to the US and work in asphalt and concrete manufacturing, designs and optimisation. Along the way, I met a person who's still a mentor of mine, a guy called Roger Penske, the motor racing and business giant in the US these days, and he taught me over many, many years the benefit of optimisation. So we see now, in order for our business to deliver projects on time and on budget, we have to optimise the whole supply chain, all the way from point of manufacture right through to fully installation. And in onshore, that means the whole project, civils, the whole lot. Offshore, it means to the quayside, where we've got no experience whatsoever. We install the turbine, and then on a floater, and at that stage they tow it away. So we've been working with all of these organisations that are going to developers and investors now for 2 years, and specifically with one or two who've been prepared to adopt what we're thinking, our thinking, and we are taking the whole supply chain all the way through, from the point of manufacture all the way through to the end of our scope. Now, optimisation is an easy word to get out of your mouth, but it's a hard word to prove. And optimisation is everything from analysing the whole supply chain, every aspect of it, ensuring that workers are well paid, but ensuring that for every extra dollar they get, they give an extra percentage of productivity at the same time. People are the critical side of this, and information and visibility. Today in Australia, nobody knows what's coming and when. It's very difficult. And we've proposed we're working with Amazon Web Services and connectors, and we're going to develop a whole supply chain that's visible 24 hours a day, 364 hours a days a year. The whole purpose is to keep costs. We all know that costs are going up all the time. Well, we're going to drive them down by improving that efficiency of the supply chain. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here, we're very humbly here in Korea this week. We have some wonderful global suppliers on our team. We are looking for more. We are looking for more key partners. Some of the technologies that we've seen downstairs, some of the technologies we've been speaking with our associates with in Korea are mind-blowing, and the really pointy end of the spear. We are looking for more partners. Putting together a team has more holes in it that we can keep filling in, because the more we do together as a team in this new revolution of renewable in Australia, we can only be winners, and by working together, we can all be winners. We are represented downstairs for the whole week. Please come by and say hello at the Australian Pavilion. Eugene, thank you so very much. Very grateful.
다음은 폴 오브 뉴캐슬 대표이사죠. 크레이크 하머디의 영상을 시청하시겠습니다.
Hello, I am Craig Carmody, Chief Executive Officer at Port of Newcastle, and I thank you for your interest in the Port of Newcastle Clean Energy Precinct. A quick introduction of who we are. The Port of Newcastle is Australia's leading energy port. We are strategically located on Australia's east coast, and trade through the port contributes over $48 billion to our national economy. We are the world's largest coal exporting port and a major player in the global energy trade market. Our 152 million tonnes of annual trade includes 25 different cargoes that are managed through more than 4,400 ship movements per annum. Importantly, we have significant capacity to grow. Our channel is only 50% utilised. In raw numbers, that means we can do 10,000 ships per year. We currently do, as I said, 4,400. In addition, we have 388 hectares of emptied land, which is available for development. All these elements combined allow the Port of Newcastle to pursue a diversification strategy which will transition this company and our region. A key part of that endeavour is our Clean Energy Precinct. Port of Newcastle's Clean Energy Precinct will be a one-stop shop for the production, storage, domestic distribution, transmission and international export of clean energy, including hydrogen and ammonia. The aim of the Port of Newcastle Clean Energy Precinct is to make the Hunter a clean energy powerhouse sometime in the next decade. This project has the support of the Australian Government, which has already contributed $100 million towards fast-tracking the project for hydrogen readiness. The Clean Energy Precinct, which is located on 220 hectares of land at the port, has three fundamental pillars supporting it. It has easy access to power, water and existing infrastructure. It has access to the international supply chains that already exist at the port, and we have the international relationships with energy customers of Asia. Finally, the Hunter in the Port of Newcastle has a deep and experienced skilled workforce that will be able to support the energy transition. As you can see by this infographic, Port of Newcastle is located in an extensive ecosystem of clean energy opportunities and activities. It is surrounded by renewable energy zones, hydrogen and energy hubs, firm capacity generators, and a well-established industrial energy market and consumers. Most importantly, future initiatives in the production and export of ammonia and hydrogen are located within this ecosystem. As you can see from this map, the Clean Energy Precinct at the port sits at the centre of this web. In terms of the numbers that reflect the many benefits that the Clean Energy Precinct will bring to our partners, the region and global trade, we've been able to crunch some basic figures. The results are highly encouraging for the region and for our country. We'll support the production and demand for green ammonia, which will exceed 600,000 kilotons from 2030 onwards. We'll support the generation of approximately 1.6 gigawatt of renewable energy at the Clean Energy Precinct. And we will promote the reduction in export carbon emissions by approximately 1 million tonnes per annum. At a domestic level, the Clean Energy Precinct will be a major agent for improvement. It will add more than $4.2 billion to the gross regional product and 5,800 jobs to the Hunter region by 2040. All of this will also help reduce the annual emissions of our region by 660,000 tonnes. So in a nutshell, the Clean Energy Precinct will place production and export all in one place, providing common user, open access and shared infrastructure, which, as has been demonstrated through the management of coal at the port, reduces overall costs and increases productivity and efficiency. You'll see by this image the artist's impression of how the Clean Energy Precinct may look in the future. Reality will be that there'll be significant variations, which will be informed by the production partners' designs and concepts. However, the underlying facts are there's 220 hectares of land with water, power, and export infrastructure already available at the port. The other major issue that the port deals with is biosecurity. For the care of health, safety, and environment, the Port of Newcastle has a long history of managing our natural fauna and flora within the port boundary. For example, with NCIG, one of our coal terminal operators, the Port of Newcastle has worked to protect the green and golden bell frog habitat. This is an example of how an industrial port can create a habitat to allow native fauna or flora to prosper while remaining commercially operational. As the Clean Energy Precinct is developed, the Port of Newcastle will continue to focus on ensuring that species like the green and golden bell frog and the migratory birds that have returned to our wetlands are protected and preserved. In developing the Clean Energy Precinct, we will rely on strong existing partnerships, as I've mentioned, and create new ones with organisations that share our vision for a clean energy future. These partnerships will be critical in helping scale up infrastructure and position our countries as leaders in the production and export of ammonia and hydrogen by 2030 onwards. With this vision, the Clean Energy Precinct has already attracted a broad range of international support, and many of these partners will be familiar to you. We remain eager to cultivate these mutually beneficial relationships and are excited about the prospect of collaboration with different countries as we move forward. I thank you very much for your time and attention today. And if you'd like to know more about the Port of Newcastle Clean Energy Precinct, please follow the QR code to our contact details. Thank you again for your time. Hello, I'm
네, 저 뉴사우스웨일즈 마지막으로 그 환경부의 발표를 제가 할 텐데요. 그 본사에서 보내준 대본에 충실하기 위해서 제가 영어로 발표하겠습니다. 죄송합니다. 지금 뜨나요? 띄워주시나요? 김유진 발표 자료. 뉴사우스웨일즈 주정부 발표 자료. 예, 감사합니다. New South Wales has a global reputation for its high living standards and has the economic conditions and quality of life to support business growth. The most populous state with 8.2 million people, New South Wales is also Australia's largest state economy and contributes around a third of national GDP. So it is key to Australia's strong and sustained record of economic growth. So New South Wales is a leader in renewable energy attractiveness, ranked the highest among Australian states and territories as providing attractive productivity for future investments, according to the 2023 Minter Ellison Renewables Report. So Sydney's attractiveness as a workplace gives investors access to one of Australia's largest unique pools of talent that is English-speaking and Asia literate. So New South Wales also received the highest possible credit rating, AAA, from both Moody's and Fitch. As Australia's largest population, New South Wales ensures a robust workforce and market for hydrogen projects. New South Wales also has necessary industrial basis for hydrogen scale-up with the existing ammonia production and export from the Port of Newcastle and Australia's largest integrated steelworks at Port Kembla. So supporting large-scale projects are New South Wales' plentiful renewable energy resources, which are being unlocked through the build out of 5 renewable energy zones. And importantly, New South Wales boasts extensive road, rail, port, and grid infrastructure, which significantly lowers the need to invest in expensive new infrastructure. All these factors combine to put New South Wales ahead in growing Australia's hydrogen industry. On top of those natural advantages, the New South Wales government has continued to bringing down hydrogen production costs with the largest amount of incentive value of any state or territory. In 2021, the New South Wales government released its hydrogen strategy outlining 60 actions designed to grow a large-scale commercial hydrogen industry in New South Wales. There is a dedicated hydrogen team within the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, 아주 이름이 깁니다, to deliver these 60 actions. A major part of the strategy is $3 billion worth of incentives to support the industry to scale and increase competitiveness. So including targeted cost reduction of up to $5 per kg of hydrogen produced. So these unique New South Wales incentives can be combined, including within Commonwealth incentives like Hydrogen Head Start, to give projects in our state some of the lowest possible hydrogen production costs nationwide. Incentives like 90% discounts on electricity network charges are available for applications now. 제가 좀 말이 빠른가요? 천천히 할까요? The New South Wales government is also supporting viable first mover projects in the state, awarding over $109 million, 3 major hydrogen projects. These hydrogen hubs will increase the production and availability of green hydrogen across the state. 잠시만요. Maury. With the $35.8 million funding approved for the Gooders Green Hydrogen and Ammonia project, this project includes an integrated solar energy to hydrogen and ammonia project. The project will have an electrolyzer capacity of 12 megawatt and produce over 930 tons of green hydrogen per annum. And second one is Illawarra with $28.5 million Australian dollar awarded to BOC Limited to develop the Illawarra Hydrogen Technology Hub. This hub aims to kickstart the adoption of green hydrogen in New South Wales for transport and electricity production. The project will use existing infrastructure, will be scalable and create local clean energy jobs to help transition New South Wales workforce to the sector. The project will have an electrolyzer capacity of 10.5 megawatt and produce 1,460 tons of green hydrogen per annum. And lastly, Newcastle, with $45 million Australian dollar awarded to Origin and Orica to develop their Hunter Valley Hydrogen Hub. This will deliver a safe, reliable, and commercial scale green hydrogen supply chain in the Newcastle Industrial and Port Zone. Origin's green hydrogen will decarbonize Orica's existing ammonia production. This project will have an electrolyzer capacity of 55 megawatt and produce 5,500 tons of green hydrogen per annum. Importantly, all these hubs projects will begin real use cases and have plans to scale up as the hydrogen industry grows. Another key site in New South Wales hydrogen industry is the Port of Newcastle, as you saw from the Craig's video just now. The Port of Newcastle has a long history of providing energy to the world on a massive scale through core exports. They have since announced vacant Portland clean energy precinct spanning 220 hectares that will be designed for large-scale production and export of green hydrogen and ammonia. The Commonwealth government has committed $100 million in funding to make the clean energy precinct hydrogen ready, and these funds are being administered by the New South Wales government. All these factors combine to put New South Wales ahead in growing Australian hydrogen industry. On top of those, after the Commonwealth funds, I have to skip to this one. Yes, lastly, the New South Wales government is backing the next wave of innovators and manufacturers that will fast-track emissions reduction, create new jobs, and drive economic growth across New South Wales. The Net Zero Manufacturing Initiative will support New South Wales business and industries in remaining leaders in the net zero transition by increasing their competitiveness, attracting investment, and opening new growth opportunities. The initiative will provide up to $275 million of funding in the most recent round across 3 programs: clean technology innovation, low carbon product manufacturing, and renewable manufacturing. The New South Wales government recognized the importance of supporting the hydrogen industry at every stage, from early stage technology development to full-scale operations. This ensures a robust and sustainable hydrogen ecosystem. So by funding initiatives like the Net Zero Manufacturing Initiative, the government is fostering the innovation, local skills, and the supply chain strengths that are crucial for hydrogen sector growth. So our unique green hydrogen electricity concessions reduce operational costs and support projects to reach financial investment decision. And with Australia's first legislated hydrogen target, the Renewable Fuel Scheme gives investors further certainty of revenue to begin and scale up projects over time. These efforts collectively demonstrate the New South Wales government's commitment to becoming a global leader in the hydrogen industry. New South Wales is nurturing its hydrogen industry at all stages to achieve the vision of becoming a hydrogen superpower. I'm also thrilled to announce that the New South Wales government will host the 2025 Asia Pacific Hydrogen Summit in the vibrant city of Sydney. This prestigious event will bring together global leaders, innovators, and investors to explore the future of hydrogen energy in our region. The summit will provide unparalleled opportunities for Korean investors and project developers to connect with senior stakeholders, discover innovative technologies, and forge strategic partnerships. So we look forward to welcoming you to Sydney in November 2025. Please feel free to contact me or my colleague Justin, based in Sydney, in the New South Wales Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, for more details on any parts of this presentation. You can also scan this QR code to register for updates on the 2025 Asia Pacific Hydrogen Summit next year. We would love to see you in Sydney next year. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Eugene, especially for getting us back on schedule. Very much appreciated. I'd now like to welcome our friend and colleague, Mr. Luke Shim, Commissioner, Trade and Investment Queensland, based here in Seoul. Over to you, Luke.
Thanks, Dean. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Luke Shim, the Commissioner for Trade and Investment Queensland here in Korea. In September 2022, our government announced the Queensland Energy and Jobs Plan to achieve our energy transition goal by 2050. The Queensland Renewable Energy and Hydrogen Jobs Fund is a $4.5 billion fund to support continued government direct investment in renewables and hydrogen energy. Our state-owned energy businesses, Stanwell, CleanCo, CS Energy, and PowerLink, are building large-scale generation, transmission, and storage infrastructure throughout the state. Some notable government-funded hydrogen projects in Queensland include Cogan Creek, which is a joint venture between CS Energy and Senex, which is, of course, owned by POSCO. And there's the Hano H2 Hub, which is backed by Arc Energy, which is owned by Korea Zinc. The Queensland government has already invested $250 million into the hydrogen sector through both CS Energy and Stanwell. And our government will continue to invest into the near future. Today, we have 5 speakers here from Queensland. These are Dalrymple Bay Infrastructure, Hydrogen Utility, Wildfire Energy, and Energy Estate. Today, we'll begin with a presentation from Mark Stone from the Department of Energy and Climate. Thank you.
Dear industry colleagues, my name is Mark Stone. I'm the Executive Director of Hydrogen and Future Fuels within the Queensland Department of Energy and Climate. Thank you for the opportunity to make this short presentation entitled Renewable Hydrogen, Queensland, the Zero Carbon Hydrogen Leader. I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands from which I'm speaking today, the Turrbal and Yuggera peoples, and acknowledge elders, both past and present. I also recognise those whose ongoing effort to protect and promote Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures will leave a lasting legacy for future elders and leaders. It is a pleasure to be presenting to you all today at the H2 Meet event in Korea. Queensland is committed to greenhouse gas emissions reduction. Earlier this year, government passed the Clean Economy Jobs Act 2024, which aims to support a decarbonised economy, new investment and jobs. These ambitious decarbonisation targets set Queensland up for the future, aiming to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 75% below 2005 levels by 2035 and achieve net zero by 2050. Queensland sees great opportunity through taking climate action, protecting our environment, creating new industries and jobs, and building diversified and resilient communities. We are fast cementing our reputation as Australia's home of hydrogen, and we see a huge opportunity for this technology to play a key role in decarbonising heavy industry, especially our mining and heavy haulage sectors. Our trading partners, particularly those in much of Asia, Europe, and North America, are demanding the places they trade with act responsibly. This is why responsible emissions targets are key to creating more jobs in the new industries of the future, like hydrogen, critical minerals, and sustainable aviation fuel. Key to our energy transition is the decarbonisation of our generation capacity through increased penetration of variable renewable energy, backed up by storage and firmed by gas and hydrogen. These new energy sources will enable a planned retirement of coal-fired generation and increased electrification. But not all sectors of our economies can be electrified, and there is a critical need for hydrogen, its derivative products, and other future fuels. A major part of the plan to achieve zero emissions by 2050 is the Queensland Energy and Jobs Plan. The Queensland Energy and Jobs Plan provides a set of key actions that balance government investment, government-owned corporation support, and private equity attraction to deliver on our priorities, including how decarbonisation can support regional trading partners on their unique decarbonisation pathways. The plan also maps a path for 95% of Queensland's supergrid infrastructure investment in the regions, turbocharging industry and manufacturing with 100,000 jobs by 2040. The investment cost of the transformation to 2035 is estimated at around 62 billion Australian dollars, which will be funded by a mix of private and public sector investment. Our publicly owned energy businesses will drive investment in large-scale generation, transmission, storage infrastructure, including through the 4.5 billion Australian dollar Queensland Renewable Energy and Hydrogen Jobs Fund to support continued investment in the energy transformation. The Energy and Jobs Plan outlines the Queensland Government's commitment to developing the emerging renewable hydrogen industry that will create new jobs and diversify Queensland's economy. The clean, reliable, and affordable renewable energy delivered through our supergrid is critical to the development of a Queensland renewable hydrogen industry. The government is investing $15 million to supercharge, coordinate, and further plan for hydrogen hubs in key locations across the state, such as Gladstone and Townsville. The Enabling Queensland's Hydrogen Production and Export Opportunities report, released in late 2022, provided detailed analysis of the hydrogen capability of many Queensland regions. The study considered energy, water, land, and ports. Regional potential identified opportunity across our now hydrogen hub regions, Townsville and Gladstone, but there are many other regions across the state that present opportunities for project developers. For example, Abbott Point was identified to have more than double the hydrogen production potential of Gladstone, which is why Queensland Government has supported the Abbott Point Activation Initiative, investing 8.5 million Australian dollars to advance master planning, development and infrastructure arrangements, all of which are needed, including planning for water and power supplies to produce hydrogen at scale. From the Abbott Point region, the Hanho Hydrogen Consortium is advancing an export-scale renewable hydrogen hub. The Hanho Hydrogen Hub will build a 1.8 million tonne per annum green ammonia facility and develop a green energy corridor between Queensland and Korea. The Sun HQ Hydrogen Hub, led by Arc Energy, is currently under construction, with Phase 1 completion expected in December this year. This will play a role in decarbonising the energy supply of the local Korea Zinc operations by using renewable hydrogen to fuel a small fleet of heavy haulage trucks. Queensland is in a good position to build and support the new hydrogen industry, thanks to our abundant solar and wind resources, large areas of land, and a highly skilled workforce. Queensland has a unique opportunity to create an internationally significant renewable hydrogen export industry to support global net zero, thanks to the state's domestic production capabilities and world-class ports, all of which have access to markets in Asia and beyond. Our renewable resources are not as stranded as other jurisdictions, thanks to our network of transmission and ports. The areas that will need development are already well-established industrial hubs with significant population. Queensland has had the benefit of a global leading LNG export industry for the past decade. This strong track record provides confidence to investors and international markets that Queensland has the capability to stand up an energy export industry, and we're doing just that. With more than 50 green hydrogen and ammonia projects already in progress across the state, Queensland is already establishing itself as a significant global hydrogen player. To learn more, I encourage you to interact with the representatives from Trade and Investment Queensland, and I hope to see you all soon in sunny and windy Queensland. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Riches and I'm the Chief Executive at Dalrymple Bay Infrastructure. DBI is the owner of the largest metallurgical coal export facility in the world. And as a metallurgical coal exporter, we see a long-term future for the terminal as a coal port. You may well then ask, what is the CEO of a coal terminal doing at a hydrogen conference? Despite our strong belief in the future of metallurgical coal, at DBI we recognise the transition to green energy and we want to be part of that transition. As you've heard, there are many players in this market across Australia and we may be quite late to the hydrogen party. But as we all know, late arrivals are often the most fun. Our strategic intent is to utilise existing infrastructure to support that transition to green energy. DBI has undertaken a number of studies to assess the feasibility of utilisation of the existing coal port infrastructure for the export of new energy. We've determined that we could export up to 4 million tonnes per annum of green ammonia from our existing terminal alongside the 85 million tonnes of coal we export every year, with very little extra infrastructure enhancement. One of the key attributes of Dalrymple Bay is the fact that we don't have to develop new infrastructure to enable the export of green ammonia. I think too often across both Australia and globally, there has been a propensity of trying to develop new infrastructure rather than utilising and repurposing the existing infrastructure that has already been built. Our coal terminal has been in operation since 1983, 40 years, and remains a facility that has grown from a 14 million tonne coal terminal to an 85 million tonne coal terminal, and we expect to be able to continue that production through to the 2050s. At the same time, we believe that there is ample opportunity to repurpose and reutilise the facility for the export of hydrogen. There are significant benefits not only in the port, but also in the surrounding areas around Dalrymple Bay, which is at Hay Point, just south of Mackay on the central Queensland coast. We have 575 hectares of available land, which is already zoned industrial and can be utilised for hydrogen development. We are not near a major urban centre. Mackay is about 30 kilometres south of Hay Point, but still has a population of over 50,000 people and a manufacturing sector that can support development in the region. We are within the Isaac Renewable Zone and within 100 kilometres of Hay Point and the Dalrymple Bay Terminal. We have over 20 gigawatts of renewable energy being developed and under development. All of those attributes lend us a great opportunity to develop a hydrogen export terminal at Dalrymple Bay. What we lack as an infrastructure owner is partners to assist us in doing that. And the reason I'm here is to try and encourage our Korean partners to look at not just some of the already existing terminals and opportunities for hydrogen development, but to look beyond those at some of the great attributes that we have at Dalrymple Bay and talk to us about how we can partner to progress this initiative. To date, as I said, we've done studies to demonstrate the capability of the port to be able to take up to 4 million tonnes of green ammonia alongside our coal exports. And we see, with the attributes we have, the potential to develop a very strong hydrogen project at Dalrymple Bay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So my name is Attilio Pigneri. I'm the founder and CEO of H2U, the hydrogen utility. I will be talking about a project we have in Gladstone, Queensland, that was mentioned before. Okay, so this is the project site. It's a 221 hectare site that we've secured on a contract for sale with the Minister for Economic Development in Queensland in 2020. We've been in the active development of the project, starting with right in the middle of COVID for now 4 years. We're in a position to transition into the final stages of the approvals and the engineering activity. First, about us, we're a dedicated green hydrogen infrastructure developer, strongly aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, obviously in our market mission, delivering solutions for deep decarbonization, but importantly, in using the projects that we're developing as a way to establish economic development opportunities, whether in terms of the jobs that we can create in regional Australia, regional Queensland, the delivery of legacy infrastructure, so using the scale and the location and the procurement potential of these projects to deliver, for example, water treatment infrastructure and other elements, and most importantly, delivering this economic development opportunity and legacy infrastructure in partnership with First Nation communities as a way to deliver economic development in this most important area. This slide gives you an idea of the breadth of the project. There's an element which is not represented here, which is the upstream wind and solar development that will feed the project. So this is really the downstream. What do you see here? In the lower part, we have the 221 hectare site. That's the picture that I was showing before. This is what we call the production precinct from the project. So it's where we aim to produce green hydrogen, green nitrogen, and then from that, green ammonia. Then for the ammonia, we have the very convenient and unique opportunity in our project of having Orica as both a project participant and domestic cornerstone of taker. So Orica actually imports ammonia today into Gladstone, and so the first task for the project is to replace those imports with green ammonia produced locally and literally across the road. And then using the same infrastructure corridors that today Orica uses, bring ammonia to the Fisherman Landing Precinct, where we will have a dedicated footprint for an increased terminal capacity, but also where Orica will maintain their buffer ammonia tank that they use by importing through this jetty, which is called Fisherman Landing number 5. Now, the uniqueness of this project and this project location is the incremental nature. So it's not, we're seeing very important infrastructure at the Port of Newcastle, but everything is greenfield in terms of this new precinct. Here we actually have an existing ammonia terminal, we have power infrastructure, we have rail infrastructure, and existing ammonia corridors, ammonia pipeline corridors that we can use in developing this project. Quickly talking about some of the project participants. So we mentioned Orica. In November 2022, we also announced an MOU with Korea East West Power, which is a project participant, and we'll be looking to support them in the fleet decarbonization exercise, starting with Dangjin and eventually Ulsan. We have Green Harvest, which is the leader of an import consortium from Taiwan. CS Energy, which is one of the 3 government-owned corporations involved in the generation of electricity that was mentioned by Mark Stone earlier. And it works with us in terms of really 3 things. One is the aggregation of renewables to support both their need of decarbonizing the Queensland grid and the project. Our project has discovered here, sorry, I won't be able to go back. Okay, has a component which is about hydrogen power generation, so a fleet of peaking gas turbines that will use the buffer hydrogen to deliver and support power and support the grid when the renewables drop. And then there is a second development site where we're looking to effectively doubling up the hydrogen production. So 3 gigawatts will be installed on this site and 3 gigawatts at this inland site operated by CS Energy. That combined capacity will support up to 4 million tons of ammonia being produced on this site for export. So it's a very globally significant project. Like, to put in context, in ammonia today, one of the biggest districts is Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago combined account for 5 million tons. Another one was Ukraine, Russia, on the Black Sea, similar size. So this is not just about this project, but actually is a flavor of the things to come in terms of ammonia developing for the energy market, no longer for the chemicals market. This is a bit of the concept with the 3D model. I'll go in detail, but just gives you a bit of a detail of the land that is secured. As I discussed before, we have the 3 parcels comprise of 221 hectares. The lower part of the site is dedicated to the hydrogen production. You see here power transmission infrastructure, so the major transmission lines for the region actually run through the site. And they have today a 1.8 gigawatt connectivity through those lines. They're approved to be upgraded to 5.4 gigawatts of development. So that lends the opportunity for a new substation on the site, and then the northern part of the site is the 8 process trains for ammonia. We have the corridor, and then here is the ammonia tank operated by Orica, and this is the concept of the development of the terminal. You can see you can see some images from the 3D model of the site again here. So what we have here is the 8-hectare footprint for the expanded storage terminal. We're planning for 3 tanks of 50,000 tons, both together for the full scale of the project, but also thinking about new size ammonia delivery vessels that will be coming online towards the end of the 2020s and early 2030s. So today, the largest vessel is 54 deadweight tons, 54,000. Typically, the LPG and ammonia hybrid vessels. We're moving towards very large gas carriers, 80,000 DWT. So we need 2 tanks being ready for the next shipment, and then 1 that keeps accommodating new production. Another feature of the project site, as discussed, is this new substation. So this will be actually 10 exits larger than the one is the current substation across the river here. And so will be used to cater for the needs of the project and then support, obviously, more reticulation of renewable energy to other industrial players. So here, just to give you an idea, we have an alumina refinery, the Orica facility, Australia's largest cement plant, and across the water, we don't quite see them, the 3 LNG plants that make the Gladstone export precinct today. And then finally, you got some views of the hydrogen plant and the ammonia plant in the background. So in terms of the role of the project, obviously highlighting the relationship with Korea. So we have on one side a domestic decarbonization task in Orica, where we're looking to replace up to 400,000 tons of ammonia imported each year. That has the benefit of obviously decarbonizing and addressing the Scope 3 emissions, but seen from the point of view of the fisherman landing jetty, we're resetting the capacity of the jetty to effectively having 100% availability. So we're going to use the shipping rights that Orica has historically to build up our export capacity. Working with Korea's West Power as one of the first, but also one of many export market participants into the project, we'll be looking to supporting their fleet decarbonization plants that you should be quite familiar with. The Dangjin power plant here in the Incheon Harbor is earmarked for co-firing of ammonia. It's an existing coal power plant, and then there is a new development site in Ulsan. And then finally, to close off and discuss how we're working with the Aboriginal groups. There are 4 Aboriginal groups in the Gladstone region. They all come up under a grouping. I'll go into full length, but basically it's the First Nations, Bailai, Gurang, and Taribelan Banda, also known as the PBC for short, which is the prescribed body corporate. But effectively, these 4 groups have got native title rights of an area which is in the order of 90,000 square kilometers, and then 23,000 square kilometers of what is called traditional user maritime resource area, which is in front of the Glaston and Bundaberg coast. Working with them, we're working on a workforce development strategy. We've been on MOU since 2023. We're looking at how we use the procurement activity of the project to deliver some legacy assets. Think about construction machinery, earth moving, and some legacy businesses that can be used for the ongoing needs of the site, but also to deliver site management services across the region. And then we're working on a very new deal for them to actually be allocated a water resource that would equate to roughly half of the needs of the project. So they have a direct economic input into the project that could be used for them to then deliver economic benefits to the region. And finally, just to give you an idea of the development approach, we've got 8 process trains. This is the first half of the project, so 4 of them, 2 million tons, so each is capable of producing 500,000 tons. The activities we're engaged at the moment is the transition from the pre-feed to the feed, whereas we're also the only project in Queensland to date to be admitted as a coordinated project, which is a streamlined approval pathway. It also bundles the federal approval requirements and the Queensland state approval requirements from an assessment point of view. These activities are targeting a first FID event, which is the one that will be used for effectively approving the investment of the first 2 process trains, plus the upgrades to the export precinct in 2026. In terms of the capacity that will come online, the first process train is literally just for Orica, so it doesn't need any of the upgrades happening at the port. The second process train is staggered by 1 year to allow for the final improvements on the port to be carried out. But then the project will be fully engineered, fully approved. So our increase in capacity has got the shortest possible lead time, because every additional offtake that we'll sign will then go straight into procurement and construction for the additional capacity to bring into the project. This was me. There is my contact details. Thank you very much for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Perkins. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Wildfire Energy. We're based in Brisbane, Australia. And today I'm going to talk to you about converting waste into value, and in particular, the production and carbon intensity of producing hydrogen and methanol from residual wastes. So the problem we have today is that waste generation is growing rapidly. It's forecast to reach over 3.4 billion tonnes per annum by 2050. Only 30% of our wastes are recycled or converted into energy. That means nearly 70% of the global waste is sent to landfill, and it produces over 5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So solid waste management is forecast to produce over 2.4 billion tonnes per annum of CO2 every year. So it's a massive problem. On the flip side, of course, there's also an sufficient supply of sustainable fuels to decarbonise. For example, hydrogen for a range of industries, mobility and applications. Also hydrogen into biomethanol for chemicals, shipping and aviation fuels, and renewable diesel and gasoline, which also need a renewable hydrogen as an input. So our solution to these 2 problems is called MIG. MIG stands for Moving Injection Horizontal Gasification. So what we've developed at Wildfire Energy is a new gasification technology. And what we can do with this technology is we can break down domestic waste, industrial waste, commercial waste, pretty much any sort of carbonaceous material. We can break it down at high temperature into carbon monoxide and hydrogen, which is called syngas. And then we can purify that syngas and make purified hydrogen, for example. Or we can further upgrade that into methanol for green methanol, or make a range of other chemical and biofuel products, including sustainable aviation fuel. As you can see here in this picture, our go-to-market solution is really a modularized and containerized design. So we're looking for more distributed production of hydrogen. So rather than importing hydrogen from Australia, we're advocating perhaps you could set up some plants using our technology to make hydrogen locally using your wastes. And we'll show in this presentation how cost-effective that could be. So our first go-to-market solution is a proprietary and patented technology design called the MIG reactor. This will process 30 to 50 tonnes per day of waste, like garbage, and this could make 1 to 2 tonnes per day of hydrogen. And if you want more hydrogen production, you can add more modules. And how does it work? So gasification has been around for a long time, but our approach is very different. So we load the waste in batches. That means we don't need to do any pre-treatment or sorting of the waste, and that's one of the major disruptive elements of our technology. Then, to start up the process, we create a high temperature zone inside the reactor, which you can see by this red zone, and then we slowly move that through the bed of reactor from one end to the other end over a period of about 24 hours. And during that period, we make the hydrogen-rich syngas continuously during that process. And at the end of the 24-hour period, we cool down the reactor and we push out the inert material which has been formed, and that can be recycled into like road base. So it's a very simple process with very simple steps. And then when you integrate this into an overall project, you'll use multiple reactors, so at least 2 reactors. One MIG reactor will be producing gas, and the other one will be being unloaded and reloaded. And then you switch operations back and forth between these 2 reactors to produce the gas continuously. Then we use proven off-the-shelf equipment to clean up the gas and to convert it into hydrogen, or to convert it into biofuels and other products that may be of interest. We've proven this process in our pilot plant, so if you come to Brisbane, Australia, we'd love to show you in person, but here's some pictures of it. And today we believe we're the only company in the world able to put in municipal solid waste directly into our reactor and produce hydrogen at the other end without any pre-treatment or sorting of that waste, and in a very reliable and cost-effective way. So the key benefits of our technology are that you don't need to do any waste treatment or sorting. We use a lot less utilities than other approaches because we have a localized, high temperature reaction zone, so it doesn't need as much oxygen and utilities as other methods. We use low-cost materials for the construction, and we have a modular design philosophy. So what this all means when you put it all together is, well, what's the cost of production of hydrogen from this technology? So you can see here today, maybe it's a little bit hard to see, but around $1 to $2 US dollars a kilogram is the production cost. And that would be valid for here in Korea. And that compares with, production costs significantly higher for most other approaches. For example, if you want to take natural gas and produce hydrogen, blue hydrogen that is, and you need to capture the CO2, and that's quite an expensive process to capture and sequester CO2. If you want to use biomass, you need to buy the biomass, and that has a significant input cost. So the production cost is probably about double of what we could propose from waste. And then, of course, green hydrogen using electrolysis. We all know that that's going to be a long-term solution to our problems, but at the moment it's still very high cost, particularly given that it's very hard to source electricity at very low cost to make it economic. So we're advocating they're using the wastes, which have a gate fee to subsidize the hydrogen production cost and hence achieve a levelized cost around that $1 to $2 US dollars per kilogram. And you can use the same logic and apply it to making other products such as methanol. We can make methanol at a range around 200 to 400 US dollars per tonne, so that's very similar to fossil fuel pricing, but it will be classed as a green methanol, and it's much cheaper than using, say, biomass, or, for example, trying to do direct air capture and adding hydrogen to the CO2, which we believe will remain very expensive for a significant period of time. In terms of the carbon intensity, these graphs show that the carbon intensity of our process is net negative. In other words, on a life cycle basis, we actually reduce the amount of carbon going into the atmosphere, not just equalizing it or net zero, it's actually a reduction. This comes about because, let's say in the Australian context, we're avoiding methane emissions of that waste going to landfill. And by avoiding those emissions, we start with a very high negative emissions credit, if you like, and it's only the plastics in the waste which contribute to a positive emissions intensity. But that is, on balance, that is not enough to outweigh the negative emissions that we've avoided. So we can achieve around about -10 to -15 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of hydrogen. That compares to +9 for natural gas production today of hydrogen. So we're developing a first facility in Brisbane, Australia, and it's going to process 40 to 50,000 tonnes of waste and make around 1 to 2 tonnes per day of hydrogen, and also it'll make electricity and heat. And we're also developing a longer-term project to make biomethanol and sustainable aviation fuels. We've got a consortium of partners, you can see there on the right, but basically this could make between 50 and 250 million litres per year of a sustainable aviation fuel. So thank you very much for your time, and this gives you a bit of an idea of how we can produce hydrogen and really cost effectively using our technology. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Time to wake up, everybody. It's the last one from Queensland, I think, so I'll be brief, but I want to get a couple of quick points across. Firstly, Vincent Dwyer, we're from Energy Estate. We're a developer of large-scale energy transition projects. We're developing, we're the largest wind and solar developer around Gladstone, which is the supplier of a lot of power into the hydrogen sector. We've got hydrogen projects we're developing in Queensland, in the United States with DOE funding, and in New Zealand, as well as methanol plants and SAF plants. So we're a sort of very broad-scale developer, very focused on the product required for the market. What market are we selling which product into? And so it's not about hydrogen, it's about the derivative product. Are we selling ammonia? Are we selling SAF? Are we selling methanol? Are we selling urea? I think that's a key focus on our strategy of development. And secondly is to focus around hubs. What regions are of high value and what products can you produce effectively from that region? So I want to focus very quickly on the region of North Queensland. We like North Queensland. It's hot and it's got crocodiles, but apart from that, it's got fantastic production of sugarcane. It's got very good infrastructure with deep water ports, rail infrastructure, incredibly good solar irradiation, particularly around the dry tropics, and has good inland wind. So we step back from there and go, okay, the most logical products are CO2-based products and ammonia, ammonia for export and urea for local production. That's the focus on what we're looking to achieve in North Queensland. Very quickly I won't talk about, this is the longs, here we go, here are the Queensland ones. So we've looked at Queensland. I don't need to tell you about Queensland. You're all here to listen to Queensland, so that's great. Talking about one of our projects, this is the Port of Abbott Point. We came up with the idea of Abbott Point as one of the best places to develop green ammonia and methanol and sustainable aviation fuel as a green industrial precinct because it's got good CO2 supply as well as the other infrastructure. The High-NQ project is the first train of that industrial precinct development. We've got an international consortium with Idemitsu from Japan, IHI Corporation from Japan, CS Energy, which is the state-owned electricity generator, and ourselves. We're developing 2 gigawatts of wind and solar behind the meter. So we all step back to hydrogen. It's a tough market. Green is more expensive. The key elements of an effective project are access to infrastructure, lowest cost energy supply, the biggest variable in the equation, obviously the right team and right consortium partners, and the lowest cost of capital. So our strategy around this project is to combine lowest cost of capital, that goes to the construction of the consortium and the strength of the consortium, and the lowest LCOE. And that's why, in our view, having behind the meter power within 25 kilometres private transmission straight into the electrolysers, straight into the ammonia plant, and off to relevant markets. That's been our focus. The project you'll see is not dissimilar to other ports we've discussed. Deepwater Port, existing infrastructure, not near any other towns or receptors, sensitive receptors, as they call them, but in all other respects with the benefits of being able, as you can see there from the dotted lines, to have large-scale renewables on site. And when I talk large, 2 gigawatts of solar is not an insubstantial microgrid. In due course, as we do additional trains and as the load increases, this port has been identified to export 25 million tonnes of ammonia in the medium term. We're starting in our project with 500,000 tonnes, train 1, together with sustainable aviation fuel and potentially urea adjacent to create this green industrial precinct. So that's High-NQ. We've completed pre-feed. We've been working on this for a couple of years with our partners. We've completed pre-feed. We've completed our basis of design. We have our feed work program ready to commence. We are looking to take feed decision probably in Q1 next year, if not towards the end of this year. So it's a project that's aiming for a 2029, 2030 first supply. Preference is into markets in, obviously, Japan with our partners and Korea and for domestic use as well. So that's the High-NQ project. We can talk in due course about unlocking the north of Queensland. There is an enormous opportunity to unlock the north of Queensland from a hydrogen perspective, but we can talk about that in due course. It's not within my 8 minutes. Finally, I just want to talk about BioNQ. BioNQ, co-located at the Port of Abbot Point. The sugarcane region in that part of Australia is one of the very best in the world. Part of the unlocking of Abbot Point is large-scale water supply coming from an existing dam called the Burdekin Falls Dam. Queensland Government is looking very closely at expanding that pipeline. That will unlock additional sugarcane production, perfect to align at the Port of Abbot Point for sustainable aviation fuel and green diesel. So that's really a complement. It's a sister project of High-NQ, but that and future trains looks to align common infrastructure, common power supply, behind the meter, and then looking to develop with partnerships with the port and with government, common terminals to reduce the cost. So that's really my message for you. LCOE, low cost of capital. That's what we're focused on, and that's how we deliver the cheapest LCOE into Korea. Thank you.
안녕하세요. 저는 서우주정부 한국사무소의 안지성 대표입니다. 저희 서우주 소재 기업들의 발표에 앞서 서우주 정부의 수소, CCS 등 에너지 전환에 대한 비전과 한국과의 협력 가능성에 대해 영어로 간단히 말씀드리겠습니다. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Jess Sun, and I am the Investment and Trade Director at the Government of Western Australia, Seoul office. I am delighted to share how our state is positioned to play a crucial role in the global clean energy transition. Western Australia is home to abundance of natural resources, both traditional minerals and renewable energy. As the world's largest producer and exporter of iron ore, we are now taking significant steps toward producing green iron. This positions us uniquely to not only support global decarbonization, but also to secure our economic future as we reduce emission in heavy industries. A cornerstone of Western Australia clean energy future is our focus on renewable hydrogen. We have established 3 hydrogen hubs strategically located in Pilbara, Midwest, and Kinawa. These hubs provide a wealth of opportunity for the hydrogen, ammonia, and green iron industries to flourish. Our focus is not only on supporting our key trading partners like Korea in achieving their decarbonization target, but also on advancing the decarbonization of our own industries. Western Australia companies are actively exploring partnership with Korean firms to drive renewable hydrogen and green iron projects, reflecting our shared commitment to sustainability and mutual growth. CCUS and CCS are also integral to our strategy for reaching net zero emissions. Western Australia has best geological storage capacity, offering not just local but international solution for carbon storage. This enables us to lead in providing carbon management solutions for industries that are difficult to decarbonize both at home and abroad. Supporting these initiatives, the Western Australian government has introduced Investment Attraction Fund to encourage investment in clean energy projects that will create jobs and drive economic diversification. Furthermore, recent legislative developments such as Petroleum Registration Amendment Bill 2023 support the transport and storage of greenhouse gases, aligning with our commitment to achieve net zero emission by 2050. In conclusion, Western Australia is not only an ideal partner in clean energy, but also a leader in providing innovative solutions for global transition to net zero. We offer rich natural resources, advanced infrastructures, and commitment to fostering partnerships that drive sustainability and economic growth. Our Invest and Trade Office here in Seoul is dedicated to facilitating these partnerships. And last but not the least, following my speech, representatives from leading WA companies will provide more detailed insights into their groundbreaking work. These include Vitas, a pioneer in the hydrogen sector, and InCapture, which is at the forefront of CCS technology. We are excited to have them here to showcase their expertise and look forward to their presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Conrad Mulherin. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Vitas Limited, and I'm here to talk about our innovative method of green hydrogen production. First, just a quick note of thanks to the team at Austrade and the West Australian Government for their organizing efforts. We're very happy to be speaking on behalf of some of the innovation that's happening in the West Australian hydrogen sector at the moment. Sorry. Okay, is that better? All right. So at Vitas, we were established in 2020 with a mission to produce materials for the energy transition and accelerate the race to net zero. We like to think of ourselves as a... Sorry, I'm having a couple of tech issues here. There we go. Okay. We like to think of ourselves as a technology materials business. We produce 5 different materials, all with application in the high-tech and energy transition sectors and supply chains. We're based in Perth in Western Australia. Our head office is in East Perth, and our lab, our R&D lab, where we've done a lot of our early innovation and product design work, is also based in Perth. We have a larger facility located in Henderson, which is just south of one of the hydrogen hubs that was mentioned in Kwinana. So we have we're in close proximity to Kwinana and some of the infrastructure benefits of that location. For the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about our green hydrogen production. We produce hydrogen by a method of silicon hydrolysis of water. So this is a distinguished method that is different from electrolysis, and I'll go into details around how that works and where we think our material is best applied in the industry. I will just touch on as well our silicon production. That is the first step in our hydrogen production process. We manufacture a nanoporous silicon that has multiple industrial applications, one of which is the use to produce green hydrogen. So as I said, we produce 5 different products. All of them are derived from our silica deposits scattered along the west coast of Western Australia. From the southwest up to the Exmouth region, we've got 5 different silica deposit areas. They all have slightly different geologic properties that allow us to pursue different processing methods to produce our 5 different products. So we're involved in the high purity quartz and ultra high purity quartz and synthetic silica sectors. These are materials that are principally oriented to the crucibles market, which is in the solar cell and solar industry supply chain. Our silicon material, as I mentioned, is a material that can be oriented to the battery anode sector. Increasingly, silicon is being used as a composite material in the anodes of batteries to improve performance, but it is the same silicon material that we also use to produce our hydrogen via our silicon hydrolysis of water method. Silanes are a new R&D area for us. We have an innovative method of producing a low or no carbon silane, which has big potential implications in the semiconductor and solar industry and polysilicon supply chain. And then, of course, we have our green hydrogen. So our end-to-end hydrogen production method is based on 2 simple chemical reactions. The first step is our metallothermic reduction method to produce our nanoporous silicon powder. This is simply a silica reaction in our furnace with a metal reagent to produce the pure silicon powder, and we have a metal oxide as a byproduct, which is then recycled back into the process. The second step is the silicon hydrolysis of water to produce hydrogen. This, again, is a very simplistic chemical process of silicon powder reacting in water to produce hydrogen gas, and then silica is reprecipitated out of that process and recycled back into the system. So both of our chemical processes have circular economy elements to them that we're continuing to refine and perfect as we scale. But both of these methods are different than the industry standard method to produce both silicon and green hydrogen. The industry standard method of producing silicon is via a process of carbothermic reduction. This requires a carbon reagent to separate the silicon and oxygen bond, and this reaction occurs at 2,000 to 3,000 degrees Celsius. It's a very high temperature process, has a carbon input and CO2 output. So all the silicon in the solar supply chain and the semiconductor supply chain has quite a substantial carbon footprint. Our method has no carbon in the system. Our metallothermic reduction process occurs at about 400 to 600 degrees Celsius in our furnace, and that is a low enough temperature that we're able to use electricity from the grid or renewable PPAs, effectively eliminating carbon from the system. And our silicon hydrolysis process, that's obviously distinct from electrolysis, which everyone's going to be familiar with. One key point of difference is the ability to produce our hydrogen on demand and at point of consumption. So this eliminates one of the big challenges with wider adoption of electrolysis-produced hydrogen, which is the compression, storage, transport, and logistics with electrolysis. In our hydrogen method, all you're transporting is the benign silicon powder. This is lightweight, stable material with a long shelf life. You can bag it, ship it around, store it, and then you use that material when you're going to produce the hydrogen at point of consumption. It's a big distinction. We're only able to produce both our silicon and our hydrogen via these methods because of the unique properties of our silica source material. This material has a very high nanoporosity. We wouldn't be able to produce our hydrogen without this material. Nanoporosity means at a molecular level, there's very high surface area, which makes this material very reactive in different conditions than it normally would be. That's the real distinction with our product. And lastly, our silicon hydrolysis method of hydrogen production is highly exothermic, meaning the reaction produces substantial excess heat from the process. This heat can either be released or it can be captured and repurposed back into the system. One of our technology partners that we're working with is working on designing a reactor to not only produce the hydrogen, but to capture the excess heat to drive a reverse osmosis plant. So in this example, they're producing hydrogen gas for whatever energy requirement and also purifying water. Neither of these processes are new. We haven't necessarily invented any of these chemical processes. They're very well established, going back 100 years. The US military in the early 1900s was using this method of hydrogen production to power their Zeppelins before World War I. Zeppelins were the big blimps that were hydrogen powered. So this is a process pathway that's very well established. We've just adapted this method to work with our source material. Early on, we developed a relationship, a technology partnership with the Lincoln Laboratories, which is the US military research, one of the US military research arms within Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And this was an important process and product verification process that we went through. The Office of Naval Research used Vitus's material to produce hydrogen in their own military testing environment. And again, this was very reassuring for our method at a larger scale. So as I said, this is a very simplistic process. It is simply the reaction of our silicon powder in water to produce hydrogen. We're developing a pilot plant at our location in Henderson in Western Australia to produce our silicon, and then we're currently working with an energy company based in the Northern Territory around a 500 kilowatt hydrogen demonstration plant located in the Northern Territory. The water in our system, you can use salt water, brine water, saline water, bore water. It does not need to be highly purified water like is required in electrolysis. This is another big distinction for us. One of the key messages I'm trying to impart is that electrolysis has received a lot of the engineering work and attention and the investment dollars, but there are multiple different methods of producing hydrogen. I liked the presentation two before me. It's an innovative way of producing hydrogen. We're another method of hydrogen production innovation. One of our big distinctions with electrolysis is our end-to-end energy requirements are significantly lower than electrolysis. So from our source material of silica to producing 1 unit of hydrogen, it is materially lower than the equivalent method of hydrogen produced via green hydrogen produced via electrolysis. As I mentioned, one of our distinctions is the ability to manage the storage and logistics challenges with electrolysis. The silicon powder is very easily transported. It's lightweight and is stable for longer periods of time. As I mentioned, the water that we use can be seawater, bore water, brine water. This is a big distinction and one of the challenges with water electrolysis deployment. And lastly, we think we're easily at the lowest quartile cost of current hydrogen production costs. An important message in our method as we continue to engineer and refine and scale is the potential to be fully circular. At our metallothermic reduction phase, the silica to silicon process, the metal oxide that's produced as a byproduct can be recycled back into the system, effectively creating a closed loop. In our hydrogen production process, the silicon and water reaction produces hydrogen and silica. The silica can then be recycled back into the system, building on that closed loop. And the heat that's generated from the silicon hydrolysis process can be repurposed for other industrial activities or, again, recycled back into the system, creating a continuous hydrogen production process. We think this is an important message in jurisdictions like Korea as they start to consider things like energy security. This effectively could create an end-to-end closed loop of hydrogen production. So at Vitus, we're involved in a series of different products that are all related to energy transition technologies. The message here is that we're at a very exciting juncture in our company life. We've spent a lot of time in the lab, refining our process, engineering our products, and we're now graduating from that startup phase to commercialization and larger industrial deployment. So I'm happy to go into any other details related to our 5 products that I didn't speak to, but in our nanoporous silicon and our hydrogen scaling up, we're very much ready to be engaging with industry. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. I'm absolutely delighted to be asked to present InCapture, my company. I'm the general manager. I'm Julia Davis. And this afternoon, I'm going to walk you through InCapture, what we do, what we're all about. And hopefully, if you want to learn out more, you'll come and meet us at our stand, and we'll discuss further. Right, let's see if I can get this right. Okay, so before I go into detail about the project, I'll give you some project highlights. So we call ourselves a first mover of a green CCS project on the Northwest Shelf. And what we mean by that is that we are not reliant on a depleted oil and gas field or a depleting oil and gas field. So we're primarily exploring and evaluating saline aquifers. We're located on the Burrup Peninsula. We're about 20 kilometers offshore. And of course, as we know, we call that the Prime Future Industrial and Green Energy Corridor in Western Australia. We've worked the area for a number of years. We know it very well. And we believe, because we have all the data, or a lot of the data, and know the area quite well, that we can get to an operational time frame. So that means sequestering and permanently storing CO2 by the early 2030s. As I said, we worked the area, and so we believe that the storage sites that we've identified are on a world-class scale. And we're looking at sites being able to store up to 3 million tons per annum. Now, of course, that will develop as we go through this primary work program that we've undertaken just recently. And I say that because we were absolutely delighted in August of this year for ourselves, InCapture as operator, but our main partner, SK Earthon, to be awarded this exploration license for a 3-year primary term. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of a background. A lot of you won't know, I've never heard of InCapture. So let me give you a little bit of background of who we are. So we're a West Australian company. InCapture's actually been in existence for about approximately 3 years. We're privately owned. We're actually based in South Perth, and we form part of the Longreach Capital Investment Group. So that's our parent or holding company. So, in fact, Longreach Capital Investments have been around for about over 20 years. And you can see the organogram below. There are a number of subsidiaries. We work very closely with some of those subsidiaries and utilize their services during our exploration period of this particular permit. So Searcher there is, some of you might have heard Searcher, they're a multi-client company and we work closely with them for their geoscience and well database. Taylor Energy has acreage on the onshore northern West Australia and have a focus primarily on new energies, solar and wind and hydrogen. So our mission to explore for, and of course we've already embarked on that now, and develop a portfolio of carbon sequestration sites in Australia and indeed in the Australasia region. So let's focus in a little bit more on our area. So you can see, dare I use the pointer? Maybe not. Anyway, so there we have the green box in the corner there. That's our permit area. That is a map that shows the oil and gas fields of the Northwest Shelf and the facilities of the Northwest Shelf. So as I said, we're approximately 120 kilometers offshore the Burrup Peninsula. And I should mention, sorry, that's didn't see that. So our major partner is, as I've told you, is SK Earthon. We have a smaller partner, Carbon CQ. They're an engineering specialists in CCS, and they certainly helped us quite a lot during our application document that went in at the end of last year. So let's talk a little bit about why we've chosen this area. So that is our database, actually, on the Northwest Shelf. So as you can see, we've got an immense coverage there. Why did we pick this area? Well, of course, as you know, Australia has the regulatory framework in place for CCS. We're very close to multiple emitters along the Pilbara coastline. We're very close, of course, to our Asian emitters. We're very close to our maritime boundary with Asia. And actually, indeed, we're not actually very far from the Kwinana hub down in the south, and their heavy industries too. In terms of in capture, so as I pointed out, we have a large database of seismic and wells upon which we've done our evaluation. That green outline has been identified and supported by us, by Geoscience Australia, as highly suitable for geological storage of CO2. And you can see the little blob there in the middle, that's our block. So you can see we're in a prime area for CCS evaluation. We also have decades as a team. We have decades of oil and gas expertise, and as many of you will know, those skill sets are directly transferable over into CCS. Sorry. So a little bit, going a bit technical now, but a little bit of screening and how we've carried out and how we intend to carry out our evaluation going forward now that we've been awarded our permit. So regional screening, that's taken 3 years, down to site characterizations, so still in identify phase, and that's where we did all our engineering studies and resource evaluations. And now we're moved over into the appraise stage. We're in the first year of our primary work program, and that's where we will start to carry out more detailed work and studies. The next slide shows you what we have intended to do and why we're doing this. So generally for the first 3 years, 2.5 years, they are primarily desktop studies and laboratory studies. With the results from that, we then will undertake reservoir engineering studies and dynamic flow studies. Now, when we have those results within at the start or approximately part of the way through year 3, we will then apply for our declaration of storage. And on being awarded that by the regulator, we will then be able to go into year 4, and year 4 will be our drilling and injectivity testing. And as you can see that plan there, we believe we can get there. We've got 2030s, I think I can read that from the side, where we will receive our injectivity license, and from then on in it is injectivity and permanent storage. So this just gives you a little bit of a feel for what we've amassed over the years and what we've evaluated over the years. So all those black lines, they're our seismic database. So as you can see, it's quite considerable. We have a lot of wells in the block, but even more importantly, we have a lot of data off block to the side of us, Angels just to the side of us, Rangers to the side of us too, to the west. And so we'll be calling on those data sets as analogs. Now, my team and myself, we have made it, one thing that's been very important throughout our evaluation has been working directly with the regulator. That's been key. And Peter and myself, we've made our way up to Canberra, if not once, twice a year, to meet with the Department of Industry and Science, or DISA, or the Department of Climate Change, Environmental and Water, or DQ. And also, so that's up in Canberra, and then also in Perth itself, we meet regularly with NOPTA and NOPSEMA. So we understand the workflow, and we've also been supported by the regulator along the way. Now, let's fast forward a little bit to see a little bit of what we're thinking and what we're hoping. So there's the Burrup Peninsula there, and it's a little block, G15AP, located offshore, as I said, about 120 kilometers offshore. That is our Burrup hub, our CCS hub. So you can see there the mining sector, fertilizers, chemicals, buildings, cements, etc. And we've grouped all that together, and we've put a hub center there, a processing center for CO2. We even envisaged a direct air capture, which is not impossible, of course. And then you can see a shipping or a piping mechanism offshore to our storage site. With that in mind, we have, as part of the project, looked at both methods of transportation. So we have looked at pipelines, so compression onshore, and then subsea pipelines out to the site for injection. And alternatively, we've looked at shipping. And this is something that my team and myself are sort of probably see ourselves in the early 2030s as this is a more likely candidate for moving CO2. I mean, we already know that these are operational in the Northern Hemisphere, and we certainly believe that this would be definitely an option for moving CO2 around in the future. So that's the presentation. I'll leave you with this slide. It says vision, but actually it's a little bit outdated because it's not just a vision anymore since we've been awarded our permit as of August of this year. If you would like to know more, please come to our West Australian stand and meet Peter, Corby and myself, and we'd be delighted to talk you further through the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. I'd just like to invite Mr. David Connolly-Hay to the stage to present for South Australia. And just a quick reminder that South Australia will be having their networking event with plenty of food and wine just next door at room 306 as soon as we're concluded the South Australia session. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Dane. That makes my job a lot easier because I would have been looking for a new job on Monday had I not promoted that networking event. So firstly, thank you everyone for your time this afternoon. I know it's been an action-packed afternoon for day one of the conference, but I assure you they saved the best till last. But in all seriousness, it is great to see what the other states and territories and project proponents are proposing for Australia. Because as you can probably appreciate, this energy transition is a big jigsaw puzzle and requires a lot of pieces. So I think everyone brings a different set of expertise and skills to the table that will help Australia and its partners develop what we're setting out to do. I'm here to talk about South Australia and our State Prosperity Project. South Australia has a great story and one that's definitely worth sharing. This was even money for this to happen to me. That's not the right presentation. That's not I've got yours on, Craig. So is it possible for someone from the desk just to come and have a look at what I'm looking at? Because it's the next... The green one? That's right. So what I'm looking at is not being projected on the screen, but yeah, anyway. Sorry. Is it possible to get... Yeah, hi. That's the Howard Group's presentation, not the South Australian one. So I need a South Australian government presentation. No, yes, correct. So South Australian government, State Prosperity. Yeah, that's on here. Yes, I'll be presenting now as well. Okay, is it possible to put it on anyway? And I'll do it now. Okay, sorry, we'll call a bit of an audible. So I might invite our first project proponent, Mr. Craig Cresp, who is the General Manager of Operations at the Hallett Group, and he's here to talk about his green cement transformation project in South Australia. So Craig, if you could come up, please, that'd be great.
Wow, thank you very much, David, for the introduction. What an opportunity to actually present on the world stage. I'm very excited and privileged to do that today. Having walked around the conference today, I managed to get some footage to send back to my family back in Australia, so 8,000 k's away. And my 12-year-old daughter texted me back and said, wow, career living in the future. And some of the footage that I sent her was of the booths and the displays, and wow, simply amazing. So an absolute credit to the people who actually put the conference together. And equally today, Dane and team, well done. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present here today. So I'm talking to our green cement project today, and the opportunity to decarbonise the regions and achieve a net zero for South Australia. I'll make sure this little button works for me. I am pressing the green one. Hey, we're on. Okay, the Hallett Group, who are we? So we are an integrated building supplies and construction and mining materials business. We've been operating now for 40 years in South Australia. We are 100% South Australian owned. The gentleman in the middle, in the bottom photo, is our managing director, Mr. Mark Pickard. His father to his right, and then his son Marcus to his left. So We employ over 500 people across the state and are very proud to remain South Australian owned. Talking about what our operations actually are, we are a very diverse business, very, very diverse business. Anything from concrete through to cement, which I'll come to very shortly, but also NATA accredited laboratories for our testing facilities, through to steel manufacture, timber truss manufacture, and everything through then to the kitchen sink, and that's no word of a lie. You walk into our reception centre at our building, at our head office in Dry Creek in Adelaide, you actually literally walk into a set of tiles and a tub and a toilet, and they're the things we actually sell, as well as what happens behind the scenes there as well. So our green cement processing hub in Port Augusta in South Australia. I'm going to touch more on the Port Augusta side of things now, where South Australia, we physically are located. Everyone knows Australia, great country, and where South Australia is in relation to the great country of Australia. Where Port Augusta sits, if I can get you to a bit of interaction here, you can take your two hands and join them together. Pretty much the only place in Australia where you can actually join and know exactly where Port Augusta is where your thumbs meet at the top. So I challenge anyone else from Australia to actually find their location on a map with their hands. So the city of Port Augusta, population 14,000 people. Like I said, we're uniquely located at the top of Spencer Gulf. We're also the crossroads of Australia for road and rail. And look, we've got the incredible backdrop of the Flinders Ranges in the background. An amazing part of the country if you've got the opportunity to come out. I've had the privilege of actually hosting a few Koreans over the last few months, and I like to think they've gone back with a great memory of our beautiful part of the country. Our energy history. So our power generation assets for Port Augusta started in 1954. So our first Playford A power station, 90 megawatt capacity. Through then to Playford B power station in 1963, a 240 meg facility, and then Northern Power Station commissioned in 1985 with a further 520, and prior to its closure was actually 540 in the end. I had the privilege of actually working at both Playford B and Northern Power Station before they closed in 2016. So during its 62 years operation, the power station provided 40% of baseload power to the state. It was a brown coal fire power station with a mine at Lee Creek, about 280 k's north of Port Augusta. Close to 100 million tonnes of brown coal was mined from Lee Creek during its 72 years operation. Post-closure of the power stations of the mine, the sites were remediated to an acceptable standard defined by the relative authorities. However, the legacy of 60 plus years operation of the power station is still evident on the landscape today. One residual outcome of burning coal, and you'll be all familiar with this, is the production of fly ash. In most cases, this ash is deposited into tailings dams or ash storage areas. For Port Augusta, this is in the form of a 276 hectare facility, leaving a dormant legacy containing 20 million tonnes of fly ash. Hallett now intend to make use of this ash and manufacture green cement. So back to our green cement processing hub. As the video plays, I'll talk to it. So for our green cement transformation project is a $165 million investment by the Hallett Group and its partners. We have $20 million federal grant from the Australian government. We are also Australia's first green certified loan as well from the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, CBA. And then the balance of equity is actually funded by ourselves. So our facility here in Port Augusta will end up processing two process streams of byproducts from industry, the ash and also what's called a black sand from a non-ferrous lead smelter in Port Pirie, which is about an hour's drive south of Port Augusta. Opportunity for everyone to have a drink and a cough. I'll skip ahead. So focusing on the ash processing itself, so we end up taking the ash and we reclaim it from the ash dam, the ash storage area. We then slurry pump it across our facility, we wash and filter it, we then dry and separate it, we then store it, we blend it with other products, and then off we go to the market as our green cement final product. As I said before, we are the crossroads of Australia with road and rail. The Port Augusta, for some who actually don't know, is actually the National Railways actually was based in Port Augusta for when it's actually first started in the country, and then later moved to Melbourne. When you look at the actual map of Australia and the rail network, the national network, not the individual private networks across the country, but how many mines, which are the dots on the right-hand side, how many mines actually are associated across the country with close proximity to the rail network. And where we are, Port Augusta, right there. So our project itself, so the green cement benefits, so taking a hypothetical approach of a 500 kilotons per year of cementitious products. So for a regular GP cement, that emits 384,000 tonnes of CO2 through its production. Don't be miffed by the fact that people can sell the dream of actually using renewable power or some other form to actually produce cement. I'm sorry, chemical equation is pretty straightforward. 55% of CO2 emissions through the production of cement actually directly comes from calcining limestone to produce GP cement. Our opportunity to actually challenge the status quo today with our optimised green cement product at a 70,000 kilotons of CO2 is produced by the production of the green cement is an 82% reduction on emissions. That's massive, massive in itself. Putting that in context for achieving net zero in regional South Australia, Australia is obviously undergoing the biggest and fastest economic transition since the Industrial Revolution. Action to reduce emissions will help prevent the worst impacts of climate change and create a boom in jobs and new industries. With the government's net zero plan, will guide our transition to the largest legislated target of net zero green emissions by 2050. Alongside the federal government, South Australia is intending to be a net zero 100% renewable energy generator by 2027. Putting that in context of our project, so if we're producing a 500,000 tonnes of cementitious products a year, from the outset, 300,000 tonnes circa will immediately be reduced in the production. So if you put that in the context of actually growing to 1 million tonnes, this graph here is actually from the federal government's climate change website. Our baseline target for 2026 on the previous year is 7.6 million tonnes of reduction per year. If we're achieving 1 million tonnes from our single project alone, we're able to actually contribute 18% reduction to all of Australia's emissions just from our single project alone, with 1 million tonnes of production of product. Very, very achievable for us, very achievable. So from the outset, the Green Cement Transformation Project will support other businesses in achieving their net zero goals by buying our product. Pretty obvious, right? But also we see the transition for us not just being with the green cement product, but actually our further fuels for our renewable products, our plant and equipment, our fuel types, and also our procurement strategies with power and fuel source locations. We recognise that we need to progress this further with the likes of a project like Helios. So I'm joined here today by the Alexei colleague as well, which Rob will present shortly. So Project Helios will provide a hydrogen fuel to our green cement processing hub. This can in the future provide us with a 100% green fuel source to dry our product, our final step to becoming a fully green processing facility. When you look at that graph there, currently obviously diesel productions and the like for using for excavators, and equally our drying and separation using LPG, we can substitute that out completely with green hydrogen. We don't intend to stop there though. We will investigate further options on the use of hydrogen in our transport fleet and energy generation options for our remote mining and quarrying operations across the state. We also intend to support other operations with their decarbonisation journey using hydrogen through trials, but also energy generation options that are available today. And clearly being here today, it's pretty evident of generation products are actually available to us on the markets now. Port Augusta is well positioned to support many trials in the transport and logistics space as a crossroads for Australia for both road and rail. However, this isn't done without support and with our partners. We've had the great privilege of actually having a statement of cooperation signed, and equally now have moved from what was a feasibility study now through to a FEED study which has commenced. And we've completed that now with our great friends with Alexseed, equally our partners with the Government of South Australia, but we're incredibly privileged and proud to actually have KHMP on board as well. And a quick little render of our project at the completion of feasibility. So we are located at the South Australian booth. I do encourage you to come and join us, but equally, I know Dave would like a plug. Please come and join us for drinks just next door. We'd be more than happy to actually host you and have a drink with you and actually converse about what our project means to actually across our great country, but equally across yours as well as we find our procurement strategies for our project and continue this journey. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Late part of the day, hope everyone's still awake. It's always a challenge, but everyone's got those drinks that Dave's going to put on afterwards. Wonderful to be here today, to be part of the H2 conference, and well facilitated, and be part of some fantastic Australian projects. My name's Joe Ranford. I'm going to introduce to you today the Great White Kaolin project, which doesn't have a direct link to hydrogen, but as you will see during my presentation, we have designed our project to really look at how we can push down our greenhouse gas emissions and supply low-level Scope 1 and 2 into Scope 3 for our customers. That's the joys of being on the ASX. Our project is located in South Australia. Thank you, Craig, for showing us where Port Augusta is. Port Augusta. Our project is on the other side of the coast. It's quite remote. This is the distance between Seoul and Busan, about 350 kilometres. So you get an understanding of where we are in that part of the world. The Great White Project has over 15 million tonnes of high quality kaolin, which represents 28 years of supply to our customers, so consistent supply in that region. South Australia is a fantastic place to work. It's got very low sovereign risk and fantastic regulation for us to be able to get projects up and running. This project is fully permitted and shovel ready, so we can get moving on the project and supply the basis of the kaolin to our customers. One of the other things for Eyre Peninsula, when people go there, it is a region that's known for its clean productivity. A lot of wheat and barley, which goes into our beers, which we love, but it's also home for fantastic seafood and the great white shark, hence the name of our project. So when we talk about a premium kaolin product, there's 4 components that go into it. Number one is the brightness, which feeds into the use in ceramics. It provides the whiteness and the brightness and the opacity in there. The other one is the low impurities. We've got very low iron in our product, which helps with the brightness as well. High mechanical strength, so you know when you make a tableware or a tile, you will get that product to go through the kiln and it will remain in form for the end use. And then high aluminium, and our kaolin has over 37% aluminium in the product, really low in alkali metals and alkaline minerals. Earths that go into it. So really high quality for the standard use of kaolins. What we also have as part of our kaolin is an activated clay, and we use that in cement mixes, and we've got a partnership with Hallett looking to reduce further. You can use our HRM product to reduce about 7% of your carbon emissions in a concrete mix. We also use it for zircon displacement and high purity alumina, and you would have seen in the presentation right at the beginning the federal government is looking at green steel but also green alumina, and a lot of alumina that's produced can be up to 22 tonnes of CO2 per tonne of HPA that's produced, and we're looking to push that down to about 4 tonnes. So as everyone here understands, the drivers for ESGs to get support from government, from customers, and from investors and lenders. We have to look at how we impact the environment, how we integrate our local communities, and obviously pull that all together, focus on our engineering design so we push down our Scope 1, Scope 2, so that when we're picked up as a product, obviously throughout the world, the driver is to push down that CO2 and our customers look at us and when they put together their Scope 3. So it's really important for us when we go through and do the design work that we push those requirements, the CO2 production down. So our project, like I said, it's fully approved and shovel ready. The region, this is the region, quite brown and barren compared to the beautiful green that I've seen in your country here in Korea. But that's what's left over after you've had a beautiful crop of wheat. We have our production facility, and we are going into production to produce that standard kaolin out of our product. But we've got a processing facility. We are 70 kilometres from the local town, and 350 kilometres from the nearest city, which Port Augusta is one of the nearest cities. We've got Port Lincoln to the south. We've got Whyalla, which is sitting just below Port Augusta. But that's the whole length of Korea. For us to try and get power transmission, it's out of the question. So we have to look at generating our own power. We looked at all sorts of different solutions, and what we came up with was a micro turbine combined with cogeneration with our heating requirement. So we need to have a remote site power for our plant and infrastructure, and we also need to dry our product. So the combination of that as cogeneration, we save about 60% of our energy requirement on site. Now, using micro turbines, we get flexible power usage. So when we have startups, we can crank them up. And then when we progress through and grow, we can add more, but it will be a combination of renewables on the back of our base power loads. And as we go through, our vision is to be able to power our micro turbines with hydrogen gas. So that is really where we are transitioning through, and partners like Hallett, who are really pushing the green use of hydrogen, and Alexseed in South Australia, and the support from the South Australian government to push down on carbon production. It's a fantastic place to be working. So I mentioned briefly a couple of our other products. We've got our rheology modifier that you can actually use depending on what your requirement is in your concrete mix, if it's pumpability, if it's reducing CO2, like I mentioned, about 7% reduction with about 1% increase in use of our HRM product. It's an activated clay. We're seeing some really good applications, sprayed concrete, so we're working with partners in that. But the high aluminium component in the kaolin clay is really attractive for producing high purity alumina. We've got a novel solution that we're working through at the moment, and we believe we'll have a lower cost solution for HPA. HPA goes into LED manufacturing, synthetic sapphire for touch screens, for wearable tech, for lenses, big growth areas, semiconductors, but it's also used in anode protection and separators in all sorts of batteries, but specifically in lithium-ion batteries. So if there's anyone in that area that would like to know more about our product, I'd really love to know what form and crystalline structure you can do. We've got a lot of flexibility with our new method. So fantastic for being up here today. Thank you very much for listening to me. We'd like to see partner opportunities, low carbon energy solutions, anyone in the kaolin space, if they're going any of the applications in ceramics there, but specifically HPA users in the area, we can really target our product to meet the requirements of individual users, whether it's crystalline or amorphous. We've got opportunity to target that requirement. So thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you at the drinks. Come up and see us at the South Australian stand.
Afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you to Dane and the team and to the South Australian Government. It's wonderful to be here. It's a beautiful event. And just walking around today just reminds us of the opportunity between our respective nations, Australia and Korea, to decarbonise and to stimulate the hydrogen economy. Which button do I press? Green one. So I'm Rob, I'm the Managing Director of Alexeed, based in Australia, with an engineering background. So Alexeed, a little bit about that. We have three sort of areas of focus. Number one is we're renewable developers, so we bridge nations with Korean strategic investment and technology, and we use our engineering team in Australia to develop renewable assets. So we have 3 or 4 of those on the go at the moment in South Australia with Hallett Group, which Craig mentioned, with the Green Cement project, and some in other parts of Australia in a similar vein, all driven around hydrogen production and consumption on domestic applications, as well as export. The second string to our bow is engineering design. So we have an engineering design team around clean technology. That's our background, that's my background, across photovoltaics, wind, battery storage, hydrogen, of course, and geothermal cooling and other forms of clean technology that we're deploying across Australia and other parts of the world. And the third is we work with Korean manufacturers, many of whom are here today downstairs, to support their technology coming into the Australian market. This includes fuel cells, electrolysis plant, compressors, bowsers and the like, and we're supporting them with approval processes, integration, marketing and connections to allow the trade between our nations and to fast track the hydrogen opportunities. Bear with me. Oh, doesn't like it, does it? I'll keep pressing. So I'm going to talk about a work we're involved in, which is a study that's been going for several years in conjunction with Korean consortia, because, of course, producing hydrogen is challenging in itself in Australia. Consuming it is challenging, of course, here in Korea. But similarly, the logistics of getting it from one part of the world to another is equally challenging. And some of the other presenters today have touched upon those points. But it's fundamental. We need to look at that complete supply chain. So Alexeed's been involved in a consortia with Korean companies, which I'll share with you if this decides to work. Perhaps not. This includes KAIST, the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, KOGAS, the Korean Gas Corporation, COMAC, which is a shipbuilder and maritime consultant in Korea, here it is, and ourselves. And it looks at the end-to-end solution, the production, the liquefaction, the barge construction, the shipping process, and then the consumption the other end. The study's been going for 4 years. It's based on liquid hydrogen, which is more energy intensive, it's got a higher energy level than gas, and also it's funded by the Korean government. These are our partners, which I've touched upon whilst I was waiting for the slides. Alexeed's the only Australian partner in this consortia. And between us, we pull together this complete supply chain. So this is a graphic looking at the whole process. So it starts with the upstream, with the production, which is Alexeed's role. and the hydrogen deployment to the port, initially through gas lines adjacent to gas infrastructure, then the liquefaction, which is KOGAS's area of expertise, then the barge and the actual movement of the hydrogen between nations, which is done by COMAC, the shipbuilder and designer, and then the consumption the other end by Comipo, Comipo being one of the 6 Korean generation power companies. Comipo are a joint venture partner in this project. They have a demand of 187,000 tonnes of hydrogen from 2032, 65,000 from 2027, which is mandated here in Korea. So they're aggressively seeking hydrogen from different parts of the globe, and this is to support their consumption in their gas-fired power plants as they decarbonise from Australian LNG. Here we go. So the study also looked at the cost of production, because of course that's what's important to the consumer, the purchaser, if you wish, not just the production cost. So it looked at the complete supply chain cost for capital and also operations, the production of the barge, the solar farm component, the liquefaction, all the various elements, the filtration system, etc., to get to that energy cost and the hydrogen cost per kilogram. In terms of where Australia were, we were second comparing to other different nations of the world, which is on the next one. Here we go. We were the second in terms of cost, the cheapest being the Middle East, but we're closest and of course geopolitically aligned as much as ever. So it was a good outcome for Australia and Korea in terms of that sharing of hydrogen between nations. So a little bit about the technology that's been developed as part of this study. So the technology, so first of all, hydrogen storage in liquid form is very challenging. It's stored at minus 253 degrees and also expands through transport. So KAIST, the Institute of Technology, in conjunction with Lattice Technology, who are their commercial arm, developed a liquid hydrogen tank. It's got a honeycomb sort of lattice type inner construction and a specific vacuum barrier to allow that cold temperatures. And it can come in any shape or form to support deployment in different styles of transportation, be it train or road or ships. So the tanks have been constructed. They're not just drawings, they've been built. They've also been patented, several patents, and also certified by Bureau Veritas in Paris in 2023. So they're ready to be deployed, and some test ones are being used at the moment in Scandinavia to support the scale up for the transportation. The ship or the barge has also been designed in detail with onboard liquefaction, onboard production, filtration of seawater, as well as the tank storage underneath. That's been done by COMAC, and that ship's been certified by Lloyd's of London. Very impressive technology, intellectual property. So getting the hydrogen from production in Australia to port has also been challenging. That's been our role. So we started off with a site adjacent to gas fields to support the use of existing infrastructure in gas lines and easements to mitigate challenges there. And also skill sets. Obviously, transferable skills from the Australian gas industry into the hydrogen industry is also pivotal and fundamental to support that scale up. We're shifting away, hence our discussions with the SA government, to a new location to support the next step of the project. 3 ways of getting the hydrogen to the port. One is the gas lines I mentioned. In the United States, they have over 2,500 kilometres of hydrogen gas lines already. In Australia, we don't have any at the moment, but the first is being developed in Parmelia in Western Australia. And we believe it's an opportunity in South Australia with their existing gas lines to support that thinking, to get to the ports of Whyalla and Port Lincoln, Cape Hardy and Port Bonython as examples with deep sea ports to allow that transportation between our nations. The second one using the tank technology is for existing methods like road or rail. There are rail lines from some of the inland locations to the ports in South Australia. And using these tanks in a containerised type solution to support liquid hydrogen is another model that's been investigated over the study. And the third is traditional road transport as well. And the last, of course, is producing the hydrogen close to port where it's possible, where real estate is available, taking advantage of the deep sea ports up the peninsula towards Port Augusta there, which is readily available, and good channels to export the hydrogen up to Korea. So there's 3 different pathways to get the liquid hydrogen up to this part of the world that we've investigated over this study. So where we are at the moment, the basic design has been completed. The detailed design is about to commence. And we're currently looking for a new location, hence our discussions with the SA government to support the next steps and also securing the funding for the detailed design. So that's where we are at the moment. It's been a very interesting process, challenging, of course, like it always is, but very interesting, and we believe we get there through perseverance and relationships with Korea to meet our objectives. Got a little video, if I can get it going, which we put together by our consortia to sort of visualise what we've been doing. I'm not too sure how this is going to work. Hasn't just started, is it? Oh, here we are. So the solar farm and wind is our Elixir role. This is the tank technology from Lattice, developed with KAIST, the university here. The import and export barges with the tanks integrated in to support the liquid hydrogen deployment. Very good, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Joe and Craig as well for your presentations. It's always good to see what project proponents are doing and not hearing from government all the time. So apologies for that disjointed start to my presentation. We'll do take 2. We'll keep the Benny Hill music minimal and we'll get straight into it. So just to break the ice, my name is David Connolly-Hay. I'm one of the business development managers from Invest SA, which is a foreign direct investment agency within the Department of State Development with the South Australian Government. As many of my counterparts have mentioned, we're here with the Australia team stand with the other states. So I encourage anyone that would like a bit more of a technical explanation or discussion to come and visit myself, Peter Bolton and Sally Townsend for those discussions, and we'd be happy to facilitate. So just to give, not to be too presumptuous, just to give everyone an understanding of where South Australia is. The South probably is a bit of a dead giveaway that we are at the bottom end of the continent. And the State Prosperity Project is in the Upper Spencer Gulf region, which is the area circled on the map. So the State Prosperity Project is essentially about unlocking economic potential in that region of South Australia and reindustrialise that region. That incorporates Whyalla, Port Pirie and Port Augusta. And what is critical to that project or projects is hydrogen, renewable energy, mining and green transformation. So this graphic here just shows you the quantum leap that South Australia has embarked in the last 2 decades or less than 2 decades. As you can see, our energy mix was made up of 1% renewables from 2007. And as you can see now, we're at 74% and on track to be 100% net renewable by 2027. So that is a makeup of wind, solar and battery, with the remainder firmed up with gas. So 74% of the electricity we're pulling from our grid is from wind, solar and battery, which is quite impressive and a great launching pad and platform for South Australia and why we think that these projects will succeed in the near future. Furthermore, to that point I've just mentioned, that is just a bit more of a comprehensive breakdown of how that energy mix looks at the moment. And some of the key elements in this equation to bringing this to fruition are some of the aspects I've just mentioned previously. So copper is obviously critical to the whole electrification and decarbonisation aspects globally. We have existing smelters and steelworks in that region as well with big mining consortia. We have hydrogen, which I'll discuss in a few moments through the Hydrogen Jobs Plan, which is the state government's marquee hydrogen project. We have the Northern Water project, which is a large desalination proposal as well. As I've mentioned before, solar and wind. South Australia, in particular, the Upper Spencer Gulf, is quite fortunately endowed with some of the best wind and solar resources anywhere in the world. Magnetite iron ore, which is also a critical raw ingredient for green iron and green steel. We have an abundance of that raw commodity, which is fantastic, and port facilities, as you would have seen previously, whether it be Port Pirie, Whyalla or Port Augusta. Now, this also just indicates and highlights the South Australian government's commitment to hydrogen, that this hasn't just been a finger in the air type of knee-jerk reaction. This has been strategically planned and discussed since 2016 and unveiling the state's roadmap in 2017. So the state is very committed to making hydrogen work. We understand that there are potentially a lot of skeptics and naysayers in the industry, but we think that we have all the critical ingredients to make hydrogen work. And what are they? That's the renewables, the deep sea port access, and we have a government that's committed to the energy transition. So that's it in a nutshell. So what is the Hydrogen Jobs Plan? That is essentially a 200 megawatt power plant in Whyalla, comprising 250 megawatt of electrolysers with a storage capacity. We are in early contractor involvement stage at this moment, with the preferred partners being ADCO Australia, BOC Linde and Epic Energy, a local South Australian storage provider. This segues into other elements of the State Prosperity Project, which is copper. You might have heard previously that South Australia is endowed with two-thirds or sort of a large percentage of Australia's copper reserves at 69%. And mentioned before, and we've heard in some of the other project discussions as well, that water is a key enabler to making a lot of these projects come to life. So the South Australian government is looking to develop a 260 megalitre desalination plant, incorporating 600 kilometres of pipeline to unlock a lot of other potential in the region through mining. And obviously electrolysis is going to be not only energy intensive, but require a lot of water. So that's what this Northern Water project plans to achieve. Green iron, and apologies, I think some of those, the numbers there aren't quite accurate, need to be updated, but you can probably appreciate that iron and steel are quite large emitters for carbon globally, and that's something that we're trying to reduce. So the state is currently in the expression of interest stage for a green iron project. And supplementing a lot of this is regulation. So the South Australian government set out to achieve a single regulatory framework where that incorporates a one-stop shop and one window to government in which renewable energy projects and hydrogen projects can be assessed in the one act. So it essentially incorporates 6 or 7 pieces of legislation into one piece of legislation to make it easier and more streamlined for project developers and proponents. And essentially that is a snapshot of all the things that we're working on at the moment. As mentioned previously, we have the renewables, we have the land. We are looking to develop the water through desalination. You can probably appreciate water is a precious commodity, and South Australia being the driest state in the driest continent in the southern hemisphere, that is critically important to unlocking a lot of this potential down the track. Hydrogen, minerals and metals, South Australia, not only copper being a strategic minerals, but we also have the critical minerals as well that will supplement the whole energy transition. We have the industry, we have the workforce. Obviously, workforce is something that needs to be maintained and developed over the course, because there will be a lot of jurisdictions fighting for skilled people. But we are working towards that with various policy documents at the moment. If you'd like any further information, please use the QR code on the screen, but please come and visit us for an in-person discussion at our stand. We'd be more than happy to have those discussions for the next 2 days. And furthermore, I'd just like to invite everyone next door to participate in some of the networking events that have been put on through Sally Townsend and her team at Invest SA, who take carriage of our Japan and Korea office. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll handball over to Dane. Thank you.
Thank you, David. 3 hours of hydrogen. I think it's time for some wine next door. So 여러분 수고하셨습니다. 3시간 지나가서 그 306번 같이 마시는 남호주 술 마시자. 감사합니다. 네.